So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm happy you're here. Are you happy you're here?
Yes.
So I'm Dr. Williams, your superintendent of schools, and to my right.
I'm your student member of the board.
And we're here for our first student town hall meeting. Earlier, I met with high school students, so now it's your turn as middle school students. I first want to thank you for being here. I want to thank our staff in the back, our students, as our staff, school-based and central office kind of wave. We see you. Thank you all for being here and supporting this event. So what's going to happen today, I'm going to just share a little bit about who I am, just a little bit, and then we're going to open up for questions. The questions could be for me or for Omar, or joint questions, and we can take turns. But what's important is that your voice will be heard. So again, I'm Dr. Williams, the superintendent. I began July 1 this summer. And my first activity was actually meeting with students and talking to students about what's working here in Baltimore County and what opportunities for improvement. And so that's been my journey thus far. I think I've visited close to 70 schools and seeing what's really happening in our buildings, talking to staff, seeing what students are doing in classes, talking to our parents. I've been on this 10 community conversation journey and hearing from our community members, our leaders and parents about what's working and some areas we need to focus on. So I must say what you see here, I'm a father and an educator. I say the father first because my 3 kids are very important to me. They're old. They are 25, 22, and soon to be 18. And so I believe in family. We have a Baltimore County Public School family. You are a part of it, which means we value what experiences you will have, and we value your voice. I'm also an educator. I'm getting older, so now 31 years of service as a teacher, a former math teacher. Who likes math out there? Oh, not everybody. Okay, almost, good. I also was an assistant principal and then a middle school principal, as well as a high school principal at 2 high schools. My middle school experience was one of the best jobs I had because middle school is all about exploration, opportunities, and having fun, but yet learning. And so in my middle school, we were, what were we called? We were called the Road Runners. And we used to get teased about that name. But what was great about that, the students supported each other. We had a lot of activities after school. We had races. We had outdoor ed experiences, athletics. It was really fun to be in that experience. And I valued the work of what our staff did, just like I value the work that our staff is doing here in Baltimore County. And so with that, I love my middle school experience. Then I became a high school principal, school that was with 2,200 students. It's pretty large. And then another high school with 2,800 students, even larger. Those experiences said to me, I value what our teachers were doing some incredible work, but also wanted to hear what was happening in classrooms, what was happening from our students and their perspective. So today is to hear a little bit about your perspectives, your questions. I may be able to answer. It may be one of those that's something that we're looking at to explore down the road. But I also will just say this. I've only been here for 6 months, and I loved every moment of it. And I'm committed to do what's necessary to continue this trajectory of student success for all for all students, regardless of your background, regardless of your race, your gender, for all. And so that's going to be the work. So with that, Omar, anything you want to share?
Feel comfortable to ask him any questions, challenge him, and yeah, let's get started.
The challenging questions will go to Omar. No, just kidding. All right, so let's begin. And let's start on this side. We'll kind of alternate from one side to another. State your name and your school and then your question. So let's start. Anybody on this side? Woo! That hand up went quickly.
My name is Elijah.
Stand up. Yeah.
My name is Elijah from Arbutus Middle School. And do you ever plan to have a soccer team for Baltimore County Public Schools?
A soccer team? We have a soccer team.
You do?
For middle school?
Yeah.
Oh, for middle school. Oh, yes. So let's talk about that. Do you play soccer?
Yes.
Do you play for a league?
No.
No. You want to play for your school?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You feel we need to have a soccer team?
Yes.
Yeah. How many of you play soccer? Great. But we don't have a soccer team at the middle school.
Nope.
No, we got to explore that. Let's explore that.
Thank
What
you.
grade are you?
7.
Okay, all right. We have some time to explore that before you go on to
Okay.
high school. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start over here.
Hi, I'm Jay Eisendrath, and I'm from Hereford Middle School. I have more of a suggestion.
Great.
Maybe we should have more janitors in personally our school to check both bathrooms in between class because they get pretty messy, but somehow, I don't know, there's just graffiti and all that stuff, and they get pretty messy, so could you try and maybe get some more janitors or bathroom guards?
So I appreciate that suggestion. We can always explore about getting more staff and support. I would like to start with how do we change that culture at our schools so all students are respectful of what we have and can actually take care of what we have. Now, I will say this, my kids will probably kill me, but every so often I have to chase them down, my kids, who I said 25, 22, soon to be 18. I got to chase them down about keeping their rooms clean. Let me look at you. How many of y'all keep your rooms clean? Mm-hmm. No, let me ask this question. Clean the way your parents want it to be clean. There's your clean, and then there's the parents' definition of clean. That's a good number. That's a good number. So if we're unable to get additional staff, we got to really talk to our student population about the culture and climate of our schools, because the staff is not using the restrooms. The staff, we got to talk to our students about taking care of our facilities. If we don't take care of our facilities, who will? So not only just the restroom, and definitely we got to address that with the graffiti and the cleaning up and making sure the trash gets into the trash can, but also the cafeteria, making sure we clean up after ourselves. So that's really, I can always explore more staffing, but I think I need to really look at the culture and how do we get us to be proud about our school, whether it's an older building or a brand new building. We never know the conditions that we're going to find, but we have to work as a team to make sure our schools are clean. So thank you for that. What about on this side? Someone way in the back.
Hello,
Hello.
My name is Jack. I'm from Pikesville Middle, and
Jack.
I have a question on how the decision-making process works. So, for example, the decision of extending spring break, and how does the decision process work?
So there's various responses to that, but since you talked about spring break, I'm going to just stick with the calendar. So we have a committee that will work and look at all the options in developing a calendar, and then we present that optional options to the school board. But ultimately, the school board had to make that decision. And they listened to various stakeholders. People were writing in. Social media was pretty big. We looked at some surveys. We involved student voice in terms of what did our student leaders feel we needed to look at. And so we reached a decision. And we had to make a decision, or the board had to make a decision. And sometimes in decision making, you're not going to appease everyone. But they made the best decision with the information that they had, which ended up what this calendar will look like. We've heard from a lot of people. We like the early start of a school year. Nope, we want a later start of the school year. We want a shortened spring break. We want a longer spring break. But I think it was pretty consistent. No one wanted to go to school through the end of June. But we're required to have a certain number of days. So therefore, it was a little challenging. So we had to make some decisions based on the information. So with that came from our team working together and getting the voice. It went to the school board. The school board took in information and then ultimately had to make the decision. So thank you for that. But let me just add this. For individual school issues, that's where your voice is important, where you can work through your government, student government, and work with the leaders if you want to make change in your individual school. You don't have to go to the school board for certain areas of discussion. A lot of the change that we're seeing is because of your voice and working with administration. So let's go on this side.
Hello, my name is Tyler Washington. I go to Sudbrook, Bagnon Middle. And my question is, why are BCPS students not offered class options geared toward helping us succeed throughout life, such as classes teaching money management, understanding taxes, public speaking, or time management, just to name a few?
You want to start? Okay. So that's been a popular question. And it's really saying, particularly at the middle school, giving you all that opportunity for exploration and to develop what your interests may be. And I think we have to explore that. It may not necessarily be a class. It may be a seminar. It may be a field trip, after-school activities, workshops during the day, so we can address just what you're talking about in terms of financial literacy, public speaking, money management, all of that. I do have an interest in looking at what we can do as a system to build that in and to have those opportunities, because I am saying I want our students to be college and career ready. We have students who finish high school and they want to work, and that's a good thing. And how do we make sure our students are prepared for that? Or they want to go to a 2-year program or a 4-year program. So I think that's a good question, and we are working to address that, but it may look differently than a class. It may be a variety of ways to get to that. Thank you for that. All right, we got some in the front.
Hi, my name is Amira. I go to Windsor Mill Middle School. My question is, do you think that our devices are distracting during classes, like we can play games, or do you think we're good as it is?
Ooh, I love that question. Okay. So should I answer as the superintendent and educator of 31 years, or should I answer as a father? Both. So I'm going to answer as the father. Absolutely, it's distracting. We have to put some limits on it. We have to put some limits on it, because I'm watching young people walking in the mall like this, looking down at their phones, or at an event looking at their phones. So I've worked with my own kids to put some limits. So when we have dinner together as a family, you know what I do. Okay, put the phone down. And you know what they tell me? Dad, put your phone down, right? So it's a mutual thing, Just to disconnect for a few minutes, and to have some bonding time. So that's the dad, the dad response. As the superintendent, I just want to make sure our students and our staff and our community know that the technology is a tool. It's a tool. I value what our staff members are doing in classrooms, and I value those relationships. That's not going to happen if you're glued to a laptop, right? So it's almost the same in both responses, using it as a tool and not be the teacher. We got great people out there, and it's about building relationships. So I'm looking at ways to accomplish that it's more of a tool than what has to happen every day, every class period. Because I want folks to interact. I want people to be engaged. So we can put some limits to it. Because there's the other piece, I'm going to have Omar to speak to this, that sometimes the tool can be a distraction and becomes more of a problem with social media. You want to talk a little bit around the cyberbullying?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of bullying that happens starts online. And basically what we're trying to do is change that norm of what goes on social media. Mostly, what do we see on social media in the comments? Like, oh, this is not nice. Like, not kind comments. So we're trying to change that norm to a more positive way of thinking and a positive way of using our devices, so that we don't have to like block as many websites on our devices, and we can let you guys use it freely, but make sure that we use it in a proper manner.
Okay. Thank you for that. But over here.
I'm Jayla Campbell, and I'm from Cockeysville Middle. My question is, since you just mentioned about like bullying that goes on and since it happens online, how do you feel? Do you feel like the handbook covers the situation? Do you feel like it's strict enough?
The student handbook?
Yeah.
So I think we can do more work around that. In some regards, I'm wondering if in fact students even know what they're saying online and how that's impacting others. So unfortunately, you can read the paper, you can see videos, and it's just kind of the norm, but not really thinking about what my actions may be doing towards others. So even though we have our student handbook and our discipline, some of it is getting to why is that happening? What's going on with that individual? So earlier I was having this conversation about the person, the bully and the one who's being bullied, the bully and the one who's being bullied. So we got to explore why are those things happening. So just with that social media, it's the same thing. So sometimes there's some hurt that's going on that we have to address, but we also have to follow our policy that no matter what we do, we have to address the root cause of this. And that's the real work. And in our experience, when we start to explore what's happening, there's something else going on that's causing some of these actions. And so we have to be responsive to that as well. So yeah, I guess I'm a little old school about the technology and all. And we want order. But I will say this, for an older person, you know, I recognize what you all are experiencing is a little bit different at this age than what I saw 10 years ago, 20 years, and safe to say 30 years ago. It's just a lot that's happening and a lot that you're seeing out in the world, and not all of it is positive. So trying to get to the root to some of what these actions are. Do you want to? Okay, cool.
My name is Todd J. Armstrong. I'm in the 8th grade, and I go to Deer Park Middle Magnet School.
Great.
My question is, there's been school shootings around the world, so how is BCPS going to help the school security system to prevent school shootings from happening?
So thank you for that question, and unfortunately we have seen that happen around the world. But what I'm pleased about, young folks, you're alerting us when you know there's potential trouble. And so a lot of what we have watched with what's happening in the world, some of these situations are based on bullying and certain events, and trying to drill down to this earlier question, how do we address some of this trauma and experiencing that students are feeling earlier before we have an unfortunate situation like what's happening in our world. But also we're noticing our students, and it's not, so back in the day we used to say somebody is snitching. You know, I don't know, are we still using that? Yeah. They're snitching. But now it's a point where folks are informing because we don't know and you don't know what the response may be. And when you see something and it doesn't look right, say something. And so many of these cases that are not making the news, it's because folks are seeing something and saying something. And we're catching it sooner than later. And we have a great office called the Office of Climate and Safety, and that's their focus. How do we keep our schools safe, and how do we help and support our students' well-being? And so what a great thing to have as a system to make sure you're safe, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. And that's our work. And so I'm pleased that we're not dealing with similar situations out there because of students and our staff are being very responsive and kind of alerting. You know, we do still have this issue with social media and potential threats. I'm going to do this, I'm going to hurt this. But our response has been quickly, and then our partnerships, particularly with the police, has been great. So again, see something, say something. It doesn't hurt for us to explore. It may never get to that point, which we're pleased, but we have to encourage our students. It's okay to say something. It's okay. We're talking about lives, and we're talking about a culture of a positive culture. So it's okay to say something. So thank you for that.
Hi, my name is Beautiful. I come from Franklin Middle School. I'm in 7th grade. And how do we stop overcrowding in the hallways and the stairwells?
Oh. So one, overcrowded in the stairways and halls. So one is looking at our facilities. We're about to do this multi-year capital improvement plan and looking at all of our schools and trying to address the facilities and address kind of the enrollment. But also we can do some other things in looking at how we move students from one class to another. So if we don't, we got to build the plan, and that may take a couple of years, but there's also some movement that seem to be working. Actually, I was at your school and during class time and looking at the halls, and you also have this little way you leave one building to go to another, right? Am I talking about the right school? Okay, right. So just looking at what we can do internally to address some of that, but definitely looking at this multiple year capital improvement plan.
Hello, my name is Sarai Keemer, and I attend Lansdowne Middle School. And my question is, what changes are being made or do you plan on implementing to help support children with different learning styles or needs?
So thank you. A couple of things. I'm looking at spending more money in building the capacity of staff to address teaching and learning, and how do we keep building the capacity of our staff members. Really want to invest some time and energy as I roll out our budget. But the other part to that, I do want to say we were able to get funded for this current year for additional counselors and social workers to help meet the needs of students, and we'll continue to advocate for more. So it's the well-being of students on that side, but it's also what we're doing in the classrooms and how do we build the capacity and giving teachers the autonomy to think outside the box and what's happening inside their classrooms in terms of just the learning, not necessarily a sit and get, but to have more hands-on exploration, group works, seminars, etc. And so just giving them that space, but also building capacity.
Hello, my name is Ahmad Imam, and I'm from Southwest. I'm just asking, can you like make like some sort of website for these things so that we can like ask them anytime?
Oh, so like ask the superintendent a question?
No,
or ask the student member a question?
Yeah, like just like something so that we can like submit our questions or something.
Oh, absolutely. We can do that. We can do that. Oh.
Hello, my name is Anjpreet and I'm from Cadisville Middle School. My question is, do you think honesty is always the best policy?
Honesty is the best policy. So, yes, I believe that. If I don't tell the truth, then I got to remember, it's harder to remember that than what actually happened. That's my belief. I think sometimes young folks may worry about what will happen when I tell the truth. And you know, I've been a teenager. You might not think that, but I've been a teenager. So I know the reality of that, and I'm gonna ask Omar to respond as well. I think it's best to just tell it. So as a parent, I'm gonna go back to the parent side. Parents can always tell when their own child is not telling the truth. They can see it in your face. They can look at you and tell, you're not telling the whole story. So I just think it's important to just tell it and own it. But I'm gonna let Omar do.
I think, yeah, it gets worse the longer you like hide it or don't tell the truth. So personally, I've realized that it's easier to just like, even if you're gonna get in trouble, it's better to get in trouble the first time than holding it longer. Then it gets worse and worse and worse, and then get in trouble again. So yeah, I think honesty is the best policy.
Hi, my name is Emmeline. I'm from Subbrook Magnet Middle School. How will you help ESOL students meet success?
So thank you for that question. We're looking right now as how we are programming for our ESOL students. And so that's one aspect, just the actual programming, and making sure we're building the English language acquisition, learning English. But also I got to look at our staffing around that. So I can't always assume that staff members have the skill set to teach reading or language, but how do we hire more and keeping them trained, and also making sure our ESOL students feel that they're a part of the whole school and not isolated or not labeled. And that's the climate and culture. It gets back to feeling like they're a part, that it doesn't matter what kind of services you're getting, that you're a part of the school community and we welcome you. So programming is very big. I am pulling back the onion, if you will, looking at all of that related to scheduling and programming, and I think we're doing a great job. Part of my budget, I present a budget every year. I will be putting forth more support around these services. So we'll have to see how much I'm funded with that, but definitely just what we're doing currently in building that capacity and looking at programming and hopefully getting additional funds to get additional resources. So thank you for that.
Hi, my name is Brian Oden, and I come from Windsor Middle School. And my question is, I've been watching videos, and I see how in Europe some schools extend their school years. And I wonder, what is your thoughts about that?
I love that question. So what I heard you say is about extending school year. So we have our summer programs just to meet that need. Sometimes it's after school, but definitely our summer programs for those students who may need just to catch up on some skill set. But there's some research out in our country about students who go to school all year long. How do you all feel about that? Well, it's not that you're in school 365 days, but there's some schools somewhat in the Midwest area where you will go to school, have a break, go to school, have a break, go to school, have a break. So you do get breaks. You do get breaks. But what you are reminding all of us is that learning has to be continuous. And so we value the breaks. We think you need the breaks, but we also understand that we got to keep the learning going on. And sometimes it doesn't have to be an extended day or extended year. It could be, how often have you read a book? So how many of you are avid readers? You love reading. Your parents or your teachers don't have to say, have you read a book yet? Keep that skill set. Thank you. Keep that skill set. There's learning as you're reading a book, reading a magazine, reading the newspaper. But yeah, I believe in opportunities for the learning to continue. And we have those structures, and we want to continue those structures for our students. It just doesn't have to be filling in gaps. It could be also enrichment and challenging as well. But we haven't talked about year-round schools at this time.
Hi, my name is Alita, and I'm from Woodlawn Middle School. And I want to know, how can you reduce violence in Baltimore County schools? I ask this question because there are consequences for being violent, but now it's like it's a routine. Like we already know what we're gonna get for our actions. So how can you remove this mentality?
So thank you for that. One strategy is we have incorporated restorative practices. So there's the consequence, but also what did you learn based on your consequence, so it doesn't happen again. And so sometimes things happen because it's a quick response to what's been going on, or there's been patterns of some kind of exchange or the social media. But the level of violence that is happening, I'm seeing more of these quick responses and just dealing with life. So one way is, as I shared earlier, trying to get more supports for students, such as counselors, social workers, just to help kids kind of think about how to problem solve. But also, I've shared this when I first came, I want every student to have at least one adult in the building whom they trust. So if before something happens, can someone go to an adult and actually say, listen, I'm struggling with this friend or this classmate, before it becomes violent, before we have these physical altercations or anything like that. And then we have to look at those who are constantly getting themselves in these situations, and looking at what other alternatives or supports we can provide. And I'm serious about, again, remember I ran a middle school, but I also ran 2 high schools that were pretty large. So having some structures and processes are important. But also, I didn't play when it comes to situations like that. But I also realized, even though I didn't play and I took a hard stance, I knew there was a hurting person behind this that led to these actions. So I had to really support the student, but support them differently. And in some cases, they just couldn't be in our schools, especially if it's violent behavior. because you should not be facing that in middle school, right? Or any school, to be honest. So I think that's our work, to look at these repeated behaviors from students, what we can do differently so it's not impacting your learning or impacting the culture and climate of your school. So thank you for that. Oh, wow.
I'm Jacob. I'm from Arbutus Middle School. I have a question for Omar. How did you make it onto the student board?
So that's funny because applications just came out for next year. So if you guys are interested in running for SMOB when you guys are sophomores or juniors in high school, you should consider that. But basically there's an application. You fill out the application. You have to submit an essay, about 5 recommendation letters, your transcript. Then there's going to be an interview stage. If you get it past the interview stage, then when there's only 2 of you left, there's question and answers, so students get to ask you questions. For me, there was a forum of about like 200 students, and me and Matthew had to go through a question and answer session. But this year, we're switching everything to online, so every middle and high school student can be able to vote. So all of you get a chance to vote for your next representative, and the question and answers and the speeches will be displayed all online. You guys are going to have a voting day, so your teachers in your ELA or social studies classes will be showing you these videos. You guys will be able to ask questions, submit questions online on Google Forms, and vote for your next representative. But yeah, that's how I went through the process.
Can you share a little bit about the benefits of serving?
So my main reason for running for SMOB in the first place was because I moved here from Ethiopia only 2 years ago. So coming here, education was completely different for me. I wasn't that good at public speaking. I barely spoke. I was shy. But coming to BCPS, coming to Pikesville High School, my teachers were really supportive. They helped me out, and I can say that BCPS helped me grow to be where I am now. So when I heard about the position, 1, it was a way to give back, and 2, it was a great leadership opportunity. So if you want to learn and grow in this position, it's definitely a great place to make connections, meet new people, speak up for your fellow friends, and yeah, it's a great position. So if you guys are interested, you should.
My name is Mohammed, and I'm from Caucusville Middle School. And I was wondering, if students can create their own clubs or student service learning programs of their own interests.
So yes, I would say work with your school leadership. If there's an interest, there has to be a sponsor, of course. But yes, there are those opportunities, and that's the uniqueness, that you may have an interest and a group of friends may have a particular interest, and working with the school leadership, trying to explore that would be great, because we do provide that opportunity for that flexibility.
My name is Roberto, and I'm from Lansdowne, and I wanted to know if you have any plans to lower the grade or age as to when we start learning other languages in school, because it feels like there's a very big disinterest in learning it at an older age, and I feel like it'd be better if it was in elementary school when we're still learning more English and all those basic levels.
So we do have the Passport program where students are learning world languages at the elementary school level. We have encouraged more of that at the middle school level. And of course, you can continue as you go into high school. So yes, I was a student that studied Spanish when I wasn't in elementary, but I studied it when I was in 7th grade. And I took Spanish throughout, but I was able to take AP language. And actually, because of that, I had a great opportunity to go to South America as an exchange student. Now, I learned the slang in Spanish and some words that my teacher told me never to use public ever again because that was just the kind of kid I was. But because of that early interest, the opportunity led to time to spend in South America for a summer and to be with a host family at an early age. And that was great because I got outside of my box. I got outside of my hometown and I left my family and it was just me and the host family. And I had to speak in Spanish. So I really had to learn to be able to communicate. And they knew some English. So I believe in that. And we do recognize our students who have matriculated through the world language and have done success on our assessment to get the seal of biliteracy in terms of graduation. That is a great thing to have, to say you are competent in 2 languages. And so I will definitely will support that. The struggle sometimes for us as a district is finding teachers of world languages to be able to teach. Actually, I was in an elementary school and they had the passport program where their world language teacher was coming in. It was just phenomenal to see the 4th graders, I think they were 4th graders or maybe 5th, learning the language and really having conversation. So I believe in that because our society is so diverse. We have to explore those opportunities. That's just how we are in this area. Even looking around this room, such a diverse population, and to develop those skills is such a good thing to have. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Avery from Franklin Middle School, and I'd like to ask, how will you fix alleviating overcrowding of buses?
Buses, buses, buses. Yes, buses. We have buses. We need more drivers. We can't have students sitting on the floor of the bus, 5 to a seat or whatever. We are working on that in terms of our recruitment efforts, our compensation, how we're recruiting, how we're maintaining. Yeah, that's been an issue when I came. I actually had an opportunity to ride a bus, first day of school. I got on a school bus. The students were looking at me like, this is the oldest looking high school student I've ever seen. And then they said, wait, we know who you are. It was a great experience, but definitely the reason why we're focusing on that is a safety issue. We want to make sure you're safe and that you're coming to school and leaving school when you need to. But we are addressing that right now. We got a great team. We have a great director to try to address these issues so we can lessen that. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Each year I wanted to get better. But yeah, we just need more drivers. More drivers. So thank you for that.
Oh. Hi, my name is Favor. I go to Northwest Academy of Health Sciences, and I'm in 8th grade. I have a suggestion, and I think that teachers or staffs are always like focusing on like the people that are getting bullied, right? And sometimes it's not always their fault. It's not always the bully's fault. And then so when they focus more on the person that's being bullied, the person that's bullying the person that's getting bullied, they might be hurt too, like, but you don't know, and then you like kind of pet the one that's getting bullied and like just forget about the person or give them consequences and stuff. And I guess that's because they don't feel comfortable talking with a lot of people in the school. So how can we fix that?
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. We're obligated to address situations around bullying. And to your point, is an excellent one. We can spend a lot of time on the student who is being bullied, but we also have to look at the one who's doing the action. and really drilling down. So we're working with our staff, we're working with our counselors, our social workers, but to your point, we also have to look at both sides and meet the needs. So I appreciate that recommendation. We're working on that more and more. Each day, each year, we're going to continue to work on that. Yeah. And another thing I just wanted to add, it came up earlier, it's okay to share things that are happening with an adult. Not only if you're experiencing or someone that you know is experiencing something that may be a little troubling. I always say, please tell an adult so we can address it sooner than later, but please tell an adult.
Hello, I represent Hereford Middle. I wanted to, this is more for the elementary school. I was wondering if maybe we could incorporate cursive into the curriculum, because I know for a fact I do not know how to sign a check, and I'd like to know how to sign a check.
Yes. Yes, I'm old school. Cursive writing. How many of you all are believing in cursive writing? It needs that. Great. So yes, we have to do that. I've watched and looked at some signatures. It's like I can't even make sense of what they're writing, you know. But yeah, there's more work we can do around cursive writing than what's happening, which means sometimes we have to put the computer down and start taking notes, longhand notes, because that's building a skill set. So I agree with you. I'm going to put you as the face of cursive writing. How do we get more? He's now fading in the wind. No, but I just believe that that's important. That's important. What do you think?
Definitely. For sure.
Hi, my name is Walter Spears. I'm from Deer Park Middle Magnet School. And my question is, I know that we need a certain amount of service learning hours to graduate high school. So I was wondering, what can BCPS do to help middle schoolers have that opportunity to earn some more service learning hours?
So I appreciate that question. So let us know what you're doing outside of the school. I'm pretty sure there are things that students are doing that we don't know all that you're doing. You know, visiting that nursing home, looking at those community centers, particularly around the holidays, whether you're passing out food, cleaning. There are a lot of things that you're doing that you can relate. What's the learning behind that? And I'm always impressed with the number of students who far exceed the requirement for student learning. When I was in school, I forgot that number, but when I was in school, in high school, we had to have almost 200 hours of community service learning. And one might say that's a lot of hours, but I'm pretty sure if you think about what you do on the weekends, in the summer, after school, that might not be so hard to accomplish, but that was back then, you know. But I just think there's always these opportunities working with your counselor to figure out what you can add to those hours, because it's always fascinating. Folks, students just frown. Do we have to do these hours? Do I have to do these hours? Or those seniors that we're chasing down to make sure they do those last few hours. That is not Omar sitting here. He got all his hours. Okay, just want to make sure. But to your point, it can start earlier, but to look at what you're doing, that I think you probably can get those hours. And to your point, it can start sooner than later. Because I believe in being a whole child. So there's the academics, got to be in school on time, taking your courses and your attendance, but also What are you doing after school? What are those clubs and activities you're doing that we may not know about? And how are you giving back? Again, the student service learning, what's the learning behind all that? So start early and work with your counselors and your teams to figure out how you can get those hours sooner than later. And then exceed it. Because we do recognize students who exceed the number of hours when it comes to graduation. So.
I'm a Johnny from Woodlawn Middle School. I'm in 8th grade.
Great.
And some teachers, they tend to spend more time disciplining the children than they do teaching the class. So what would you, as a superintendent, do about that?
Stress that we need to spend more time on teaching and learning. And if we have an engaging curriculum, engaging lesson plan, expectation, relationship, then I can spend less on the discipline. I'm focusing on the teaching and learning. Everyone knows my expectation. I know my students by name. I know what they need. I know little Daryl might need more than what Omar. I know those things. I have structure. It's not stand and deliver. It's more group work, seminars, all hands-on opportunities. The discipline will fold in nicely with that. I'm about the teaching and learning. Are our students learning? And how do we know if they're not? What are we going to do about it if they're not? So, sometimes the discipline has been an issue since I've come to Baltimore County. A lot of questions about our policy, and it came up today. But I just really think a big way of focusing on that is building those relationships and making sure our staff members have the skills and support that they need, so they're not spending all the time focusing on discipline. I need to focus on whatever that class is in the teaching and learning. So I think I have time for one more quick question. Okay.
My name is Alexandra, and I'm from Arbutus Middle. And I wanted to know exactly what our school curriculum is supposed to be this year, because since school started, it's like the teachers push a lot on us, and before we're done with one lesson, they're already into a new one. And it makes a lot of kids, including myself, fall short of what exactly they're teaching us.
So that's an interesting point. So the expectation is for our teachers to be teaching the standards and helping our kids to master the standard. And we have our unit assessment, but also giving the space that if students are not learning, what can we do before we move on? And it's not about coverage. So the adults in the room and my age, we used to focus, we got to cover, we got to cover, we got to cover. Now we have to say, are our students learning? And how do you know? So not to push and not to just go over material, but to make sure you all are really learning the content. And so a lot of that's giving the space to the staff to do that, giving the time to plan, which is important, but also supporting when other decisions have to be made. So thank you for that question. That's our work, and that's what we're working on. Let me just say this to you all. Thank you for being here. I want you to understand your voice is important. You're here today, but make sure your voice is being heard through the student government, student council, and also working with your leaders, your leadership of your school. Great places that you're in, but make sure your voice is heard. And continue to be challenged. The work is going to be hard at times. Don't give up. We've all had some challenging courses. Continue to work hard. And my last point to you, we still have school through December 20th before winter break. So we got a couple more days. Enjoy these last few days before we have this little break again. But thank you all for being here. Give yourselves a hand. Yeah. Come on, middle school. You all can do better than that. There you go.